Have you ever been in a conversation where halfway through, your brain already knows how it's going to end? You can already see the point they're trying to make. You already know the next thing they're about to say. So you just sit there, nodding, waiting for them to catch up to a place your mind reached minutes ago. Not because you think you're smarter than them, but because your brain moves through ideas a little differently, a little faster. And after a while, the hardest part isn't the thinking. It's pretending you're still discovering the conversation at the same pace as everyone else. Now think about this. There was a man named William James Sidis. By the age of 11, he was already giving a lecture at Harvard. Many newspapers called him one of the greatest child prodigies ever known, and some even speculated that his IQ might have been extraordinarily high, though it was never officially confirmed. But here's the strange part. As he grew older, he stepped away from fame, took simple jobs, and chose to live a quiet, isolated life. And he wasn't the only brilliant mind who struggled. Isaac Newton, one of the greatest scientists in history, spent much of his life in deep isolation and even suffered a serious mental breakdown in 1693, which raises an interesting question. What if having an extremely powerful mind isn't always a gift? Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, Vincent van Gogh, three extraordinary minds, three people who changed art and literature forever. But behind that brilliance, there was also something heavier, something the world didn't fully see. And when psychologists look closely at lives like these, a strange pattern begins to appear: extreme intelligence and deep inner struggle. It shows up far too often to simply be a coincidence. So what is actually happening inside a mind like this? And if some part of this already feels strangely familiar to you, why? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you might finally understand something about your own mind that you've never been able to explain before. Now, before you close this video thinking this is just another high IQ is a blessing story, stop. You already know that side. You've seen the Forbes lists, you've read the success stories, you've watched the documentaries about geniuses who changed the world. The internet is full of that narrative. Type high IQ benefits and you'll find thousands of studies, hundreds of articles, endless proof that intelligence opens doors, builds empires, and rewires entire industries. Nobody's arguing that. But here's what those articles never mention, what those documentaries quietly skip over, what those success stories conveniently leave out. Every single gift has a weight attached to it, always, without exception. And the heavier the gift, the heavier the weight. That's not pessimism, that's just how human psychology works. Researchers have studied this pattern across decades and across cultures, and what they keep finding is the same uncomfortable truth. The very things that make an extremely high IQ brain exceptional are the very same things that make it exhausting to live inside. Not sometimes, not in rare cases, almost always. And that's not a flaw in the design. That's the design. So here are 7 dark sides of having an extremely high IQ that nobody talks about. Number 1, your brain never turns off. Most people can sit in silence and simply exist, but for an extremely high IQ mind, silence is never actually silent. A passing thought connects to a memory. That memory raises a question. That question opens 3 more. And before you know it, it is 2 a.m. and you are solving problems that don't exist yet for situations that may never happen. Neuroscientists found that extremely high IQ brains have a hyperactive default mode network, the system responsible for internal thought and self-reflection. In most people, it quiets at rest. In minds like this, it never does. It is not a choice, it is simply the way the machinery is built. Number 2, overanalyzing becomes your default setting. A friend takes longer than usual to reply. Most people notice and move on, but your brain opens a file. Was that tone different? Did something shift? You replay conversations. You check for patterns. You run through possibilities until you find something that feels like an answer. And sometimes you find 17 answers and cannot choose between them. Psychologist Barry Schwartz found that having more mental angles does not bring freedom, it brings paralysis. You are not just living your life, you are constantly interpreting it, and that never fully stops. Number 3, the world always feels slightly out of sync. You're in a group conversation. Everyone around you seems engaged and relaxed, but something feels off. The discussion stays on the surface. Nobody asks the deeper questions sitting right underneath the obvious one. You can see it clearly, but bringing it up would shift the entire mood. So you stay quiet. You participate just enough, and you walk away feeling like you were physically present but never actually there. Researcher Lita Hollingworth called this asynchronous development. The higher the IQ, the harder it becomes to find people operating at a similar depth. It is not arrogance, it's a genuine mismatch that follows you almost everywhere. Number 5, social interactions drain you completely. After a few hours with people, most individuals feel recharged, but you leave feeling like you just finished a very long shift at work, not because anything went wrong, but because the entire time your brain was running on multiple levels, reading emotional cues, tracking subtext, noticing the things people almost said, managing how much of your actual self to reveal and how much to quietly put away. Psychologist Elaine Aron found that highly intelligent minds process social information at a significantly deeper level than average. What looks like a simple gathering from the outside is an enormous amount of invisible cognitive work from the inside, and that work has a cost nobody else in the room can see. Number 5, finding real connection feels almost impossible. You meet someone new. The conversation starts well, but then it hits a ceiling. It stops going deeper and stays at a comfortable level, and you recognize that feeling immediately because you have felt it before, many times, with many people. You enjoy the connection for what it is, but you quietly stop expecting it to become what you actually need. Researcher Maraka Gross studied gifted individuals over 20 years and found one pattern in almost every case. The deeper the intelligence, the smaller the number of people who could genuinely meet them there. Not because highly intelligent people are difficult, but because real connection requires overlap, and at extreme levels of intelligence, that overlap becomes genuinely rare. Number 6, expectations become a permanent pressure. The moment people know you are exceptionally intelligent, your struggles stop being allowed. A bad decision becomes harder to explain. A moment of confusion needs justification. Asking for help feels like a contradiction of everything people believe about you. So you stop showing the uncertain parts. You perform confidence. You figure things out alone because the alternative feels like letting everyone down. Psychologist Carol Dweck found that people identified as gifted early in life build their entire identity around being the smart one. And once that identity is in place, every crack in it feels catastrophic. Protecting it slowly becomes more exhausting than anything else. Number 7, the loneliness runs deeper than anyone can see. You are in a room full of people, conversations happening, laughter, energy, and you're part of it, present, engaged, responding at all the right moments. But underneath, there is something quiet and persistent, a feeling that nobody in this room is seeing the real version of you. They're seeing the version you carefully brought tonight, the one that fits, the one that's easier to be around. Psychologist Rollo May found that the deepest loneliness doesn't come from being physically alone. It comes from being fundamentally unseen by the people right there with you. For extremely high IQ individuals, this is not occasional. For many, it becomes the background noise of their entire life. The tragedy of a high IQ isn't that you know too much, it's that you feel too much of what others can't even see. If you recognized yourself in any of this, that is not a defect. It is a different kind of architecture. The same mind that makes ordinary moments feel heavy is also the mind that sees what others miss, that asks questions others never think to ask, that feels things at a depth most people never reach. People like us don't get to choose how our minds work, but we do get to choose what we do with that understanding. So before you close this video, tell me in the comments, which one of these hit the closest? The brain that never rests, the loneliness in a crowded room, the performance of confidence you give every single day? Because somewhere in that comment section is someone who finally feels less alone reading your words. As Nikola Tesla once said, "Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born." He spent his entire life thinking in ways the world wasn't ready for, and he never stopped. Neither should you. If this video made you feel seen, subscribe. Every week, we go deeper into the psychology of minds like yours, the patterns nobody names, the feelings nobody talks about, the science behind the way you experience the world differently. And if someone in your life always seems to be carrying something invisible, share this with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show someone they are not alone.